Welcome back, Kook, Groms, and Freaks. We're back in Board Garage. We're here today with a new installment of the QUIVER walkthrough. In front of us today is the Mitzvin remake of a Hansen Superlight. This is a badass board. It rides a whole lot better than the previous logs. This board is obviously a remake. Mitzvin made it. How big is this?
9.3.
9.3. Yeah, it's a great board. A lot of concave. There's a lot going on. It's a beautiful board, and the resin tint is awesome. Yeah.
Alright, so the original longboard Superlights were made from 66 to 67. And this was the kind of the transitional period from a straight nose rider to people really wanted to ride the wave and make turns. So what you see here is actually not stringers, but glue ups. So this is a glue line, and then the center stringer traditionally was foam. This one is redwood, but it's a tapered stringer that goes to 0 right here, and then the nose is stringerless. The idea there, obviously, to create a little bit more flex. One of the other big differences in this board is that it's got a little bit of a rolled entry, but between the glue ups from about the end of the stringer all the way back it's a neutral center between the glue ups, and then rolled from the glue ups out to the rail, which, as you can imagine, as soon as you put the board on rail, it just comes around very easily. The board turns as easy as pie. I mean, it's really just, it's a great rider. And with that flexible nose, it does have a very good, cheater 5s and some ability to nose ride.
But you get really good release off of that bottom turn. It really loads up from the bottom, so you can really, if all you wanted to do is carve up and down a wave, you can legitimately do it just because of all the flex that comes from the bottom of the board, as opposed to the previous nose riders. This board is made to flex, and it can definitely go up and down the wave a little bit more and still be a little bit cheater 5 nose rider kind of fun.
Absolutely. That neutral center also, when you're on trim, allows the board to go a lot faster. You have a lot less board in the water. Everybody's talking about edge boards these days, but that neutral is the only part while you're in trim that's going to be in the water until you roll that over onto rail, and then the board just comes around instantaneously. The other big difference in this board is it's super foiled. If you look at it's almost completely flat decked, and the nose, rails, and tail of this board are super foiled out.
And a ton of rocker. It's really hard to bury the nose on this board. You can get into some pretty steep, especially Jersey Shore, you can get into some steep waves on this board without a whole lot of consequence. You can definitely ride this board in a little bit of a wave.
And because of that roll on the bottom of it, the board turns very well from center.
Yeah.
So if you're up on the nose, you just take one step back and you can cut down on the wave. Make the board side slide. I ride it with only I think it's an 8.5 inch fin on this one. On a 9.3 board. Because of the round pin tail, you can get away with a much smaller fin, loosen it up, and make it a lot faster.
Going right down the line of nose riders, this is the next one. This is a 9.6 Mitzvin hand shape. Another nose rider. This one is after a David Nueva. Got it right. The woodwork on this board is incredible. The tail block is spectacular, and all the reds match because OCD runs deep in the Kaywood family. It's so foiled out on the nose. This is like one of my favorite boards to actually go up on the nose on, just because it's so much concave out in the nose, and there's still so much foam, and I don't know. This is a great board. It's not as wide as some of the other Hansens, so you can fit it in a little bit of a more critical wave, but it's still just as heavy and still just as big and still just as much as a boat. That being said, it definitely falls in between for me. The difference between the super light and a Hansen, or the Hansen 50/50s, per se, just because, I don't know, this board is way more prone for me as light. I'm 150 pounds. I can nose ride this board proper.
So yeah, this was actually the second David Nuevo that Bob made for me. Midson's just great to work with, and we did an original one to the 66 template with original templated fin, 10-ounce volan, classic weight foam, wider classic tail block width, and it was a great nose rider, but I wanted a little bit more of a rider. So next trip down here or over here, Bob and I talked about this, and this is the aesthetic. This is the exact aesthetic of the David Nuevo that he rode in whatever that was, 66, 67 U.S. Championships, with the checkerboard resin print on the top and 5 T-band stringer. Everything's tight to that, but we just made it a little bit more modern sensibilities, pulled the tail block into 5.5 inches. Nice.
A little bit more Jersey style of surfing. A little forgiving for our little beach break. Yeah.
When we have steep beach break, you need to be able to make turns, and you just can't make turns with that super wide tail. So we pulled the tail in a little bit, put a box in so I could ride a Greeno 4A, my favorite single fin.
The best fin.
So all together, I rode the two 9.6s side by side for a year and a half, and then chose one of them, and this is the one that I still love riding. This is just such a great board. That nice faded nose concave. It's got a nice rolled entry up there, going into the single, a little bit of a V, roll bottom in front of the fin box, and then flat out the back. Just enough tail kick for the board to really, turn when it needs to. But other than that, it's a soft 50/50 rail all the way through. Really great board to ride.
All right. Final installment of the day. This is a 9.5 Yater spoon. This is utter speed of the day. There is nothing faster than this board. Definitely, the whole board is pretty parallel. It's a little bit thinner towards the nose, but as I was just informed by my father, it's a little bit of a step deck on the nose. The best part of this board for me is the full tapered stringer along the deck with the glassed on wood fin. You guys probably can't see that now because of the lighting, but incredible board. And realizing sitting here right now, this is so thick right here, and it just, you can see how it tapers off, but nothing was faster than this board apparently, huh?
This was the Star Trek board of its time and era. The guys up in Santa Barbara needed a board that was faster than the boards that they had to surf Rincon, so they made a board a little bit more pulled in, lighten the nose so they could make turns in critical stages, and overall just a little bit more pulled in nose and pulled in tail than the boards of the day. And the Yater spoon was at that time as revolutionary as it got. Interesting story about this particular one. Apparently Rennie Yater made a small number of boards in the late 90s to replicate the 66, 67, the mid-60s spoons, this being one of them. And the gentleman that I bought it from got it from Rennie and never waxed it. So the board's about 25 years old, and until I got it last year, it was never ridden.
That's such a shame.
So it is so pristine.
Not a shame for us. It's perfect for us.
It's perfect for us. interesting story about the fin is it's old growth redwood that Chuck Ames foiled for Rennie for the glass on. And once again, you know, a more raky fin. Guys were really trying to explore new ways to ride waves back then. And this was, once again, kind of the Star Trek version of surfboards back then.
You realize, though, it definitely, talking about just straight down the line speed, from the last one, this one is so much flatter. It is nearly just as flat as the first Hansen. It is like a plank in front of it. I mean, you can see it. It's pretty flat.
It is. It is. And the board is a great nose rider for around here.
When you run up really quickly, you don't get much time around here.
But it does go. It can be a fast board, and that when that fin starts to hum,
just down the line. But it's definitely scary dropping in on. You got a whole lot of board. This is a heavy board in comparison, and dropping in around here, talking about the fin humming. Down line, pick a line, and you shoot, and you don't break that line pretty much.
Yeah, but just gorgeous. Wood is good, and it's got gorgeous wood. That tapered balsa with sandwich between redwood with the redwood fin and then a redwood tail block. I mean, just really gorgeous woodworking.